Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Montefiore Nyack Hospital's Community Chats. Today, I will be hosting for Sandra Arvalo, who is your usual host, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and let me get started by welcoming our speaker for today, Juliet Content. And Juliet will be speaking to us today about pedestrian safety, which is such an important topic. And Juliet is from the Rockland County Department of Health. And I will let her introduce herself. And she has a presentation prepared for us today. And I'm so excited, Juliet, to learn more about this topic because it is so very important. I think we are all too familiar with accidents that happen. And so anything we could learn to be safer in our day-to-day lives, I think will make a huge difference. And I can see we have participants joining us. So with that, Juliet, would you like to introduce yourself and then we will get the program started. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Denise. Good afternoon, everybody present. I'm Juliet Content. I work with Rockland County Health Department based in health promotions, to be exact. And currently, we were awarded a grant from Governor Kathy Hochul, which we call the GTSC grant, Governor Traffic Safety Committee. And our aim is to educate the community, schools about safety. And today I have a presentation that I'm going to share. It includes the vehicle and traffic safety laws, how we can maneuver within Rockland County to make ourselves safe and avoid accidents, injuries, and fatalities. Thank you very much. Now, to start, okay, there we go. Rockland County was identified as one of the top 20 counties for pedestrian-related crashes. As you know, in 2016, we were one of the 20 counties that were highly at risk with lots of crashes and injuries because of pedestrian safety. And that was through the Safety Action Plan when they did the study. So why are we here talking about pedestrian safety? The reason we are doing this because we are all pedestrians. Everyone is a pedestrian at some point. Every time you leave your house, walk into a store, cross the street with either with your child or you're going for a jog or walking through a park, we are all pedestrians. So our aim with our continued education is to raise both driver and pedestrian awareness. And this will enable to provide a safety issue and promote behavior change, and it will be able to reduce pedestrian injuries and fatalities. That's the whole purpose of this program, is to raise awareness of the safety issue. A question: do you know how to be street smart? Walk safely near ongoing traffic. Cross the road safely to avoid any injuries. This is a question we have to ask ourselves because we all end up doing anything to jeopardize. We do mistakes to jeopardize our safety. And here are some of the points that I find we all do. Do you make any of these mistakes while walking? Walking while talking on the phone or wearing headphones and you can't hear sounds of traffic coming along, somebody's calling out your name, you're totally distracted. Crossing in the middle of the block, that's a no-no. Usually you're better off crossing by the traffic light at the intersection, not in the middle. Walking at night in dark clothes. This is something that was noticed highly in Rockland County. And sometimes when you're walking, you're not watching out for careless drivers, the ones that are speeding, they're reckless. So these are all mistakes that we came to note. Walking in the middle of the road, sometimes a few people do that. And then you're distracted, you're also not watching out for cars that are backing up. So these are all mistakes that we find people do, and we'd like to address them step by step. That's where we have the campaign See or Be Seen. This totally involves safety at all times during walking, driving, and biking. See or Be Seen addresses all safety issues. This, when I say see, that means you expect pedestrians. So you look out, pay attention, don't text while driving. C still holds obey the speed limit. So look closely. And then when we go to be seen, use crosswalks. Don't walk in the middle of the street. Obey signals. If you see a sign, the light says no walking and there's a stop, no walking, please do. Look left, look right, look left again. Pay attention and remember still, don't text while crossing. What is See and Be Seen? See and Be Seen is an educational approach which was taken by the health department to increase awareness on the topic of pedestrian and driving safety. And that's exactly why we are here today, to raise awareness to the community. We do this in schools, at gatherings, just to raise awareness to decrease crashes, fatalities in Rockland County. Our target population, who gets to be targeted with this presentation? Drivers, pedestrians. So like I said in the beginning, everybody's a pedestrian, because even if you're driving and you park your car, you get out to go to the supermarket, at that time, you are a pedestrian. Why? Why do we do that? Reason we do that is every year pedestrians are involved in crashes that result in injury or loss of life. So still, we go back to the fact that we need to raise awareness that we are all pedestrians at some point. Pedestrians or drivers do not pay attention. Not all drivers pay attention, not all pedestrians pay attention. And sometimes reason why people don't use crosswalks, because they are not in good condition. They are cracked, they are in poor condition. Signals are not well coordinated. You'll get to a intersection and there are no signals that show it's time for you to cross. And pedestrians also end up walking at night with dark clothing. So when you're with dark clothing, you're not being seen. And the key to make sure you're seen is somebody can avoid you. And so that we avoid crashes and we avoid injuries. This we've noticed occurs a lot on Route 45 and Route 59. I'm sure everybody's aware of exactly where Route 45 and Route 59 are. And the reason the New York State Action Plan chose these routes because this was based on studies previous that showed that there is a very high pedestrian volume, and which also means high pedestrian crash data on both 45 and 59. Reason being, Route 45 and 59 connects to densely populated residential neighborhoods. And these neighborhoods mostly have a lot of pedestrians. These pedestrians are serviced by public transit, which is via bus and railway services, which both run along the corridors, which we refer to as Route 45 and 59. These corridors mostly have low-income populations, immigrants, and residents who speak very little to no English. And this group often has no form of transportation, which increases pedestrian traffic. And some pedestrians, due to their religion, must wear dark clothing, even when walking at night. So you see, that's why the studies were really based around Route 45 and Route 59 because numbers showed lots of crashes occur there, and these are pedestrians. And like we identified, these are low-income populations, immigrants, and residents who speak no English. So even if somebody can try yelling out, stop, stop, if you're not familiar with the English language, you'll end up being in an accident. According to New York State traffic data, the average daily traffic on Route 45 is 17,000 vehicles a day. That's a lot, just average. And then on Route 59 is up to 22,000 vehicles a day. So over here, I have a graph from the police report. And as you can see, police reported crashes. Is everybody able to see my screen? I believe so.
Yes.
2017, you have 59, 2018, 66, 2019, 106, 2020, 91, and 2021, 89. And now our goal is to move to bring all these numbers down. Now these include fatal crashes, personal injury crashes, fatal tickets issued for speeding, aggressive driving, seat belts, all these. This is all the crashes and injuries reported in Rockland County. And this is just up to 2022. We don't have anything yet for 2023. This is some information we got out of Traffic Center. As you can see, in 2022, in Rockland County, there were 2,725 people killed or injured in crashes, 2,725. Now, 20 were killed and 2,705 suffered injuries. So again, we go back to education to raise awareness so we can bring these numbers down. Now, Ramapo, just the town of Ramapo by itself, had 458 persons killed and some injured in crashes. And this was in 2022. So our goal is to try and decrease these numbers because just this for town of Ramapo seems like a really high number, which is a high number. So our mission is to continue educating pedestrians and drivers about the vehicle and traffic laws. And when we do this, this can help us work towards our goal, which is to decrease crash rates, increase pedestrian awareness and safety. So everybody, whether it's a pedestrian, a driver, is safe as they go traveling. And it will also look into help in the goal of reconstructing crossing points and sidewalks, just to make the environment safe. Because as mentioned earlier, some sidewalks are cracked, broken. So our mission is also to aim and have all this infrastructure put in order such that people cross at the required crosswalks. Make yourself visible. At night, when you're walking, dress to be seen. Always wear bright colors when walking at night. Wear bright or reflective clothing. The county here, if you invite us to do a presentation, we even have bracelets that you can just put on your wrist, and those can make you visible. But carry a flashlight if you have one, or use the flashlight on your phone. As a pedestrian, you're not always visible to drivers, especially for large truck and bus drivers. And recently, there was a statistic coming out that Rockland County has ended up having more large cars, like SUVs, more than small cars. And it makes that invisible for a driver to see. So always wear bright colors when walking at night. In conclusions, always cross at a crosswalk or a corner. Look behind you for vehicles turning the corner before you cross. Don't assume you have the right of way. You are pedestrian and just keep going. Look behind you look around you to make sure when you walk on the sidewalk, if there is no sidewalk, always walk on the side of the road facing traffic. Be seen. Wear light-colored or reflective clothing. Obey all traffic signs and signals. And most importantly, pay attention. That's the most important of all. Here are some resources where we get our information from. Traffic safety has data up to 2022 preliminary, and then by sometime late soon, they should be updating it. And like I mentioned earlier, this is from an awareness which was brought up by the GTS, Governor's Traffic Safety Committee, and we are aiming to save lives. The Rockland County came up with some literature, which I put here. These are flyers, which we can give out to the community if somebody is interested. And this shows some facts on how to share the road, respectively, both for pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. This is a very good handout, which we can provide if anybody is in need for their place. Same, it continues, it's a trifold, has lots of information, talks about the traffic laws, and it's a very good handout. And we do have it here if anybody needs it. Thank you very much. And I'm open to any questions.
Great, thank you, Juliet. And I just want to remind everyone, you can type your questions and then we can read those to Juliet to ask her anything that you might want to know more about for pedestrian safety. Juliet, while we're waiting for people to type their questions, maybe I can ask you a few questions so we can get people engaged in this conversation. And
Yes,
so I
please.
guess one question I have, Juliet, I'm not sure if you know the answer, but certainly I'm curious, and that is, are there legal implications or issues of a hit and run? So let's say a car hits a person and they take off and um, do you happen to know, what the legal situation is for that?
Now, all questions in that matter end up being taken by the police. Like we know right now, there are not as many cameras, but there are some cameras. So usually the police will follow up in regards to a hit and run. And if somebody is identified, yes, they'll be up for prosecution because that is a crime. Hitting and running, definitely they'll be up for prosecution. And that's why we encourage if people are walking, walk with light clothing. So anybody can notice who you are. And make sure there is lighting too, because if somebody hits you and they take off, then that ends up being a terrible case to follow up. But yes, people can be prosecuted for a hit and run.
Okay, and that's a good point that you make. I didn't even realize that, but that there are cameras out there, and so things are being monitored, right? So that if the person leaves, but there is ways in which they can see this. Okay. And another question, Juliet, do you happen to know, is Rockland County working on adding more sidewalks in areas that don't currently have sidewalks? I know I live locally and I know there are some roads, for example, Mountain View Avenue, and I often see people walking on this road, but a good portion of it does not have sidewalks and it's a single lane. So certainly, I would say it's a probably dangerous road to walk on. So I'm just curious, is the county working on this, on adding more sidewalks?
I believe there is a planning process to work on all that, increase pedestrian lanes. Um, And right now on the Rockland Gov, the website, if you go on, there is a place where you can comment and also add your suggestions because they are looking to put up a trail which will be a walkway through the entire county. That's in the process. So we'll have better sidewalks and places for pedestrians, like during walking in good weather where somebody can have a seat. So all this is in a planning phase at the moment.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, for many reasons, right? So certainly one, safety. And so it's good to know that they're trying to put a path that goes all the way through Rockland. And I guess, as a member of the Community Health and Wellness Department, that certainly appeals to me because we're always encouraging people to be more active. And so certainly if residents have a way of walking safely, then we know that they absolutely can be more active and be healthier as well.
And this was brought up because if during COVID, that's when it was realized that people don't have good trails for walking, just like you mentioned. So now a plan was put in place to come up with a trail which is going to accommodate both pedestrians, bicyclists, and it all through the county. Just like you see the walkway that was installed on the Tappan Zee Bridge, whereby you can ride a bicycle and you can walk. So this is going to have room for pedestrians, wheelchairs, so there is enough space to avoid crashes and injuries.
Very interesting. And I know you showed one of your slides had cyclists bicyclists listed there as well. And which I think is important, especially in Rockland County, to be aware of. You know, we have a lot of bicyclists in the county, which is a good thing because certainly it has people out there being active, but it could also be a dangerous thing. So my husband happens to be a cyclist as well,
Okay.
but he does
Okay.
have one of those red flashing lights that is mounted on the back of his bicycle. And so I wonder, he does that for safety, and I'm so happy that he does. But is that required? Are cyclists required to have a light of any sort on their bicycle, or is that just a voluntary thing?
It's recommended. And actually, just a note to that, we do have those as giveaways here at the county. We can give them out to cyclists because that is a way to be protected, but it's not a mandate, but it's recommended.
Okay, good to know. And I didn't realize the county gives them out, so that's good.
Yes, we do receive those from the state. And if a group reaches out to us, yes, we can come and we'll share like this little trifold of ours, which promotes how to share a road. And we can also give out, I mentioned earlier, the bracelets, reflecting bracelets, and we have those too for the bicycles.
Very nice. Okay, good. And I do see there was a question. I don't think we spoke about the bike helmets. So maybe I'll just ask you, that's one of the questions, Juliet. Are bicycle helmets mandatory? Would you happen to know that?
Bicycle helmets for school kids, they are mandatory in school areas. But for anybody, like I mentioned, it's recommended, but it's not a mandate. So you won't find that somebody's ticketed for riding a bike without a helmet. But for your safety, it's a recommendation.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I do feel like, as I said, I know we have an awful lot of cyclists in Rockland County. And I would say from my observations, I do feel like in Rockland anyway, most cyclists are wearing helmets, which it's good to know they're doing that, I guess, voluntary for their own safety. But as you say, these things are suggested and recommended, but not necessarily mandated.
Yes, and like you mentioned, Rockland County has a couple of groups for cyclists, and they are able to address these issues and recommend. It's a recommendation. Somebody won't get ticketed, but it's an emphasis because, like we said, it's for your own protection. It makes you safe and it doesn't harm you to just put something light whereby you're visible. I've found myself leaving work and I'm driving on Route 45 to go back home. A winter time when it's dark at 5, it's not visible at all. So between the potholes
Mm.
and trying to make sure you see you can swerve and hit somebody not aware that, yeah, and it would be an accident, but this is something that can be done or can be prevented if you wear light clothing.
Yes, very good. And you made a good point earlier about all of us making the effort to cross streets at the corner. And a full disclosure, I will be first to admit I have in fact often crossed streets in the middle. And I just don't even think about it. But to your point, from a safety perspective, really we should be going to the corners and the crosswalks where we're most visibly seen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, in New York City, you'll see sign for now it's okay to walk. They are not all over Rockland County, but at some traffic lights, they are there, whereby it's like, okay, now it's time for you to walk. But if you see the stop sign, please do stop, because like I mentioned, lots of careless drivers. Somebody will be ready trying to get through an orange light, but because you didn't look clearly, get hit just like that.
Yeah. And Juliet, another question, and I'll remind our viewers as well, if you have questions, please feel free to write them in the Q&A, and we're happy to ask them of Juliet. So a question I have, Juliet, often when we're driving, we see rather aggressive drivers, people who are weaving in and out or aggressively tailgating someone. If we observe this, is there a way that we can report aggressive driving, say if we see the license plate of the driver?
I actually recommend people to do that. I advise if you're driving and somebody's swerving all over on the street and you're able to get their license plate, call the police department. Let them know the exact place where you are, the street, and the license plate. Because two things could be in place. Somebody could be getting sick. By that way, you're helping them. Medical issue going on. And then the other issue would be you're saving somebody, because if somebody's inebriated, they are drunk, they are high, they are swerving, tailgating, they could hit somebody up front, cause a major accident. But if you call the cops, they're able to stop it before it happens. So yes, I do recommend to call the police department. And I find that police are very receptive. They'll ask where you are, the location, because that's the key. Oh, I'm on Route 59. I just crossed this street. And they'll try and send out somebody right away to attend to that issue.
Very good, thank you. And how about you brought up another interesting point, and you spoke about people driving under the influence. And so these days, with marijuana now being legal, I wonder, is there anything being done in Rockland County to prevent people from driving while under the influence of marijuana? I mean, we know about drunk driving and alcohol, but how about marijuana?
Now, I believe the same way they do breathalyzer tests, they are coming up with a test whereby it has to be within a certain limit. Not get in a car when you're totally in a stupor mode and think you'll get away with it. There are limitations in regards to that.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but it sounds like from what you're saying, just like there's breathalyzers for alcohol, there
Yes.
will soon be something for marijuana as well.
Yeah, they're trying to get that in place too, because that has come up as an issue. If you're holding drunk drivers accountable, people can also be high on marijuana. So that has come up, and I believe something is in the works to come up with a test to know a certain limit.
Interesting. Well, so far we're learning lots, Juliet, about being safer, both driving and as pedestrians, as well as cyclists. So let me see if we have any other questions. So I'll ask the group again. Looks like we have about 8 participants. Are there any questions that anybody else has out there that you would like to ask Juliet about pedestrian safety? Okay. So I don't see anything else coming up just at the moment, Juliet. Are there any other thoughts that you want to share, with our viewers today. You've
Now,
shared a lot of good things. Go ahead.
as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure, we have viewers from different areas, but at the end, I shared my email. We do presentations in schools in different community to continue raising awareness on pedestrian and traffic safety. And we have some information for the kids. School, be safe as you get off the school bus. All this stuff is available to the county. So if you reach out to us, we can set up something, we can come and meet you, and we have interesting coloring books which will show our kids about safety, how to cross the street, always be aware. So anybody on the webinar, if they are interested, they can always reach out and we'll be able to provide that.
Great. Yeah, I think that's, listen, certainly this topic, I think we agree is important for everyone, children and adults. But I think that's terrific that the county goes out to the schools, probably because, we certainly know the younger generation is much more likely to be texting. And we know how dangerous that
Yes,
is, right? Texting and driving. And so
texting.
I do think it's good. And it sounds like you provide nice incentives when you go out there, from the bracelets to the lights that go on the back of bicycles. So I
Yes.
hope if anyone's listening and you're a teacher or you have groups, you'll reach out to Juliet and take advantage while the county is offering to do this. And I'm excited to see what comes forward, Juliet, in terms of what you said earlier about more sidewalks and more safety and paths and things like that. I feel like we have a lot already in Rockland County, but look, certainly there are areas where we could do a little bit better. And it sounds like you're working on that.
And I believe that trail will be great because it connects all the towns. Can you imagine from Stony Point all the way to Rockland Lake? I mean, that will be great. That promotes exercise, wellness. It's just a win-win situation. Anybody with a family in handicap, you can even just get on the trail and walk, and then they'll have benches to sit, water fountains, parks for dogs, so you can also go out with your dog. So we are looking to really improve pedestrian and traffic safety for all, because at the end, we are all pedestrians.
Yes, and it's very exciting that, as you said, Governor Hochul, provided the grant to enable you to do all of this good work, right? So it sounds like exciting things, and that probably will be one of the longest trails in Rockland, I would imagine, based on the way you're describing it.
Yes, and this came about because COVID, people staying indoors, getting depressed, but you get out, get some fresh air, that's good. But we didn't have that in Rockland. So now that's something exciting we are all looking forward to.
Very nice. Okay, let me check one more time, Juliet, and see if we have any further questions before we wrap up. I think we are good. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I want to thank Juliet for joining us and providing us with such an informative presentation. The sun is shining, so I do hope everybody gets out there and takes a walk and follows some of these safety guidelines that we learned today. And just a reminder, the community chats are weekly, and we hope to see you next Thursday at the same time. And Sandra Arvala, your host, will resume at that point. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Juliet.
Thank you very much, Denise, and thank you everyone present.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Sandra, I think we pulled it off. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Julia.